and welcome back to a new painting video. This is installment 3 of an ongoing series I'm running on my channel. If you'd like to see the previous videos or know more about the series in general, I will link them down below. Just briefly before I talk about the piece, I wanted to mention what I'm doing right now. I mean, it seems pretty obvious, but I'm just blocking in color. At the beginning stages of a painting, it's important to use large brush strokes and look at what you're painting as in basic shapes. You shouldn't get overly complicated or detailed right from the start, because it makes things much harder for you. Laying down color in big forms helps you understand the core values of the piece, and also helps you to see if your colors are correct. Let's say you spend all your time sculpting and detailing the face, getting it perfect before you move on to everything else. And then the moment you work on another area, you see that your initial color for the face is completely off. That is because colors can look different relative to whatever is next to it. If you have a gray square, for example, and you place the same gray square on a black and white background, you'll find that on the black background, it looks much lighter than it does on the white background. So to give yourself an easier time while painting, try to block in as much of the canvas as you can with a large brush and lots of paint, and slowly work your way into detail. For me personally, I could have added even more paint in the beginning. Like many others, I tend to get caught up in the idea of wasting paint by loading so much on the brush, and I tend to use much less than I really should. The truth is that it is much easier, especially if you're working alla prima, to start off with a lot of paint on the canvas. You will find your colors blend easier, and you won't have to fight your brush to get the pigment down. I know I talked about this pretty quickly, but if you'd like me to expand on the subject, let me know. If you take anything away from what I said, it is to start off with large blocks of color with a loaded brush of paint before working your way into the details. today's painting has a bit more going on than in the last two in the series. I really wanted the focus of this piece to be the fungi and mushrooms and have them stem and grow from the figure itself. I'm not sure of the particular name of the fungi I'm painting, but I'll put up the reference I used. I scaled up the ones in the background because if it was true to scale, everything would look overcrowded and confused. Besides, the background isn't supposed to be exactly a physical place, but rather a depiction of a mental state, if that makes any sense. I wanted the figure to blend in with the background and become a part of it in a sense. So on the skin, I included more of the veins and the texture of the fungus, partly as it's growing on the figure, but also the shadows being casted from other parts of the painting. I really enjoyed playing with the color and texture of everything as well. Merging it into the fabric and skin was fun to paint. I did say it is not a physical place, I still wanted to create depth and contrast. To create this illusion, I went in with a glaze of titanium white mixed in with a bit of ultramarine blue and cerulean blue with a little bit of liquid, and brushed over the area I wanted to push back. I then took a soft brush and went in circular and back and forth motions to blend the color out and reveal more of the underlying paint. The brush I used for this is the Series 1582 Badger Softener Blender Brush by Rosemary & Co., which I have linked below. You want to make sure you're barely touching the surface when blending, and to make sure your strokes are soft so you achieve a nice soft blend. The effect is really great as it pushes those shapes farther back into the painting and creates a nice depth to the piece. It almost looks like fog in a way. I did struggle a bit painting this particular fungus, mushroom? Not sure what to call it, but anyway, I didn't want the colors to appear overly bright and command all the attention, but I did want to have that contrast. I find when painting complex objects like this, is to not think of them of the object itself, but rather in abstract shapes of color. I was watching a demonstration from Dennis Perrin the other day, and he was painting roses from life. Someone had asked him how he goes about painting each petal, and how he doesn't get confused or overwhelmed by it. He said that he doesn't see them as petals, and he doesn't see it as a rose. Instead, he is looking at the shapes of light and color, and essentially replicating what he sees. He works from large to small as well. He starts with the two main pools of color, the general highlight and shadow, and he blocks in the shadow shape and then the highlight shape, not concerned about each petal in the beginning. Then he makes another color mix and adds to the shadow and highlight in blocks of color slightly altered in hue. The key is that he's looking at these shapes and forms rather than thinking he has to recreate this petal. I attempted this in a similar technique for the fungus on the arm. When I was getting too confused in the detail and color, I took a step back and went back to the general light green tone, and then blocked in a darker shadow tone. After that was blocked in, I was able to go in with more detail. I mentioned this in my last video, but simplifying your shapes and the piece as a whole is key. Painting this chain necklace was still a struggle for me, if I'm being honest, but I do think I'm getting the hang of it a bit better. Finding a balance of conveying it as a necklace without painting each individual link is what I'm trying to accomplish. I think the core shadows and highlights definitely help to give it that look, but I do have a long way to go. the end for this piece. I do hope you enjoyed the video and are still interested in this series. I'll be jumping up to an even bigger size for next week, and it will definitely bring some exciting challenges, so stay tuned for that. I'd like to thank you all for watching. I sincerely appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.